All right. Thank you and welcome to Return Fire episode 8. We have a special guest on Return Fire. First time we've had any guests on Return Fire. So FMPONE, welcome. Welcome to our little our mini show here we got going in between podcasts, of course. If you are a Patreon on patreon.com/peakersadvantage, you can ask us questions to be answered on this show, which is what we're going to be doing right now before we get into all the FMPONE new cash stuff that is very exciting that I'm sure everybody wants to talk about. All right, so the first one is from our patron, Dirty Money Magic Mike. During Davy's ESL analysis, oh, nice, thanks for the shout out. He spoke about how most teams find a good middle ground on map vetoes. Who do y'all think has the most successful surprise map vetoes in the pro scene? Alex, tell us.
Ooh, I would have said a long time ago. I would have said Zeus, but he used to permaban Cash, and I think he even picked it against Astralis one time. But I wouldn't say it's successful because he lost to Astralis when he did that. I think that was within the last 12 months. So today, probably Kerrigan would be up there. I'd say he kind of surprises people with his map vetoes.
I think the biggest upset map veto was probably Astralis versus Liquid at the major with Vertigo being picked by Astralis, and then they won on it. So I'm pretty sure it threw everyone off. I didn't expect them to, because Liquid looked pretty legit on it, and it was them picking Vertigo over Nuke. So
FMPONE, do you have any thoughts on this?
Not Nip or Liquid.
That's
my Exist is probably the best all-time veto.
Yeah. All right, now this is one again that's going to be pretty good for you to answer. This is from 20, one of our patrons as well, also regular in the stream. What is the map that is closest to perfect for competitive and pugs? And you're not allowed to say Cash, despite what you may think. You're not allowed to say.
I will say Cash.
Pick another one. Okay, Corey can say Cash.
Okay. We're all saying Cash.
All right, everybody else can say Cash for FMPONE. I want to know what your opinion is as far as the other maps go, not ones that you have made. Which one do you think is the most perfect for competitive and pugs?
Okay, so I could go through them and say where I think they are good and where they're not.
Okay.
So like Inferno, I think is a great competitive map, but I don't think I would call it a great pug map. I think it's a very strategic map, and you're going to get pretty frustrated if people can't hold the B site properly, and that is a pretty involved process. Mm-hmm. So probably not Inferno. I think Mirage is kind of a similar deal where it's a pretty detailed map. You have to get a lot of details right in order to have a successful game versus
you have to be able to throw lots of smokes. You got to know lots of smokes on Mirage.
Yeah, Train I think we can dismiss as a pug map. It's not very puggable. Nuke, kind of the same deal. So I think, what does that leave you with? Dust 2?
Overpass.
Or...
Yeah, Dust 2 and Overpass, Vertigo.
Vertigo, I mean, Overpass, I'd say probably Overpass or Dust 2. Obviously, Dust 2 being the easier of those two to play with random people you've never met before.
Does like when they can't hold long, though.
Fuck Dust 2. Fuck Dust 2.
I wouldn't put Dust 2 as a top competitive map.
No, me neither. And I need you to... Okay, maybe I'm missing something here. From a map creator's point of view, what is good about Dust 2? Just like one thing. Just one thing. Just pick one thing. Fuck that.
I think there's a lot of great things about Dust 2. I was looking at the Sponge edits to Dust 2 the other day.
Those would be good.
And well, here's the thing. I think on paper those are all really sound. And like, okay, so they added new cubbies or whatever. You just throw a Molotov in there. It's not the end of the world. You throw an HE in there. It's not the end of the world. And it does add a little bit of something. But I think of all the maps, if we were to just pick one map where we say this is just how it's going to be, it's never going to change because we want, or not significantly change because we want the character of Counter-Strike to kind of remain the way it is and not have like radical swings in crazy directions, then maybe Dust 2 would be the map that just never changes. What do you guys think about that?
No. I hate Dust 2 so much. I think it's so fucking boring. It plays terribly. It's played the exact same way for 20 years. And I do understand, and I do get your point though. And I think if that's something that you want, then that makes sense. Like if that's something that you like, you're like, let's just leave this how it is. Let's not touch it. It's great. Let's leave it. Even if it is going to play the same way, we know like it's going to be good and we like it. I get why people could have that opinion.
I think they could have left the original Mirage the same and it would have played great forever.
Yeah.
Like the Yeah, well, like it was Mirage when they first in Go.
Yeah.
Remember when it was like gray
Yeah,
and shit
yeah,
before
yeah.
Valve took over? I thought that was my favorite map. I thought that was the best competitive map ever.
Yeah. But for me, as far as like Dust 2 goes, like for me, I want new stuff, even if it's not very good. Like even if people like Vertigo, for example, when Vertigo first got introduced to the map pool, everyone was like, this map is dumb, it doesn't make sense, there's this wrong with it, this wrong with it, this wrong with it. And even though I agreed with most of those things, having new maps and new things in the map pool is something I've always been a huge advocate for. It keeps things fresh. I think you could have, and I've said this idea before, so I'm not going to go too in depth, but just because obviously I haven't talked to you about this before. My idea for a perfect system is you have maybe, let's say, 12 maps, right? But you only play 7 at a time. There's only 7 at a time, like normal. There's a 7 map pool. At the end of each major cycle, think of it like a batting order. You cycle the top one out and bring the new one in, and you just keep cycling through maps, and you can pull maps out, put in new ones, and then everybody knows what the next map is going to be after the major's over. This map is in. We know this. This map's out. This map's in. And you just keep cycling maps, and you add new maps to it. You take maps out if people are done with them. You can keep making new maps, and then that way we always have fresh maps in the scene. So theoretically, two years from now, it's going to be an entirely different map pool than it was 2 years ago, right? You're going to have 5 new maps by then in the map pool.
I would almost be like I'm in the same boat. I think a rotation is good too. I just wish it were maybe 2 maps, because if it's 12 and we rotate one at a time, it's going to be like years before we see one map again.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Yeah. So I think 2 at a time, but same idea.
Yeah, but then I do think though I think you'd still have to pull maps out and put in new ones, because I do want new maps.
I would want that too.
Yeah. So that's my idea for map rotations. Anyways, I don't know what you think about that.
I think that puts a lot of pressure on the scene. Like, not only to have new maps, but they got to be of a certain quality, and they've got to go in at a certain time, and it's very regimented and scheduled. And I think when you're making maps, you kind of have more of a perspective about, like, yeah, if somebody's telling me I have to have something ready by a certain amount of time, like, maybe that's good, but it could also be, I think it's just a lot of pressure on the ecosystem. And I also think that, we're people who obviously really are passionate about Counter-Strike. We love Counter-Strike. We pay very close attention. We're talking about the games. We know the score lines in the games. We know who dropped big frags and stuff like that. But the average player is not that in tune and in depth with everything. And, like, let's say you haven't checked out Counter-Strike in a year or maybe 2 years. You're looking at maps you don't recognize. It's going to take something away from the experience, and it might even push you away from the experience completely. So I think this is an area where being so into Counter-Strike can kind of give you a false perspective on how the majority of people relate to the game.
Right.
That's a good point.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah, I tend to not think about, when I'm thinking about the competitive scene, I'm just thinking what's best for the competitive scene. I don't really care too much about the casuals, I guess. Let's say it's not really something that I think about.
A danger of rotating maps so much is, like, not just the fact about the maps, but like you got to relearn maps, you got to relearn metas, you got to redoing that. Plus, they're changing like the Krieg pistols, like, and all that shit. It's like a lot. Like at a pro scene, like a bunch of little changes, it like affects the top tiers. Like if they don't have ample time to like learn, like if it's like 3 new maps are in, plus they change like 3 guns.
Well, it's not really 3 new maps, right? Like this is what I'm talking about. You get 1 new map every 6 months.
Yeah.
And you're cycling them, so it's not so like, it's like Alex was said, 12's too much. So let's say it's 9. There's 2 extra maps. So 1 new one comes in, one of the old ones comes out, and goes back down to 9. So by that time again next year, that one will be back in again. So it's not like all brand new maps constantly.
Yeah, I mean, I like the current maps. Like some of them could just use a little bit of tweaks. Like they could even bring in like a Tuscan or something. I still don't understand why that's never happened.
Yeah.
Like that's a great map. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I feel like they create these maps like Vertigo, and like I'm all for new maps, but Vertigo's kind of a dumb map. Like
especially the newest changes. The newest changes actually made it worse somehow.
Like I just don't. I watch it, I play it, and I'm just like, dude, everything is so awkward. Like, even when you're like pushed, like as a CT, and you like make it in their spawn and shit, there's like 8,000 angles to check, like in those areas where it's like, I don't know. I think sometimes things just need to be a little bit simpler. Like if you run around Tuscan, there's like a couple boxes, and a lot of it's just flat open spaces. Like I think that's more like how map should be. Like cache is basic. There's a lot of open spaces. There's sight boxes. You don't push into spawn and there's like 37 containers to check behind.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. So this next one, this is from Darian on the Discord. So Darian's our producer, by the way.
Yeah, what's up?
He's the voice you hear in the background. What happened to the sick angled wall on cache, FMPONE? What happened to it? I also don't even know what wall you're talking about,
Yeah,
but
what
I've
is
seen this
it?
comment a
What is
bunch
All
of
right, so
times.
basically there was this angled wall in one of his tests. I think it was a video uploaded to his YouTube channel. Peep that. He said it do be like that sometimes on the tweet or something. I remember all this stuff. So it was just this site. It was on a site, and it was where that big signpost is now. The big travel sign on a site. So instead, it was still the same tall wall. You couldn't throw nades over it or anything, and except it was angled, so you could peek right into quad. I think so, like from truck. So that's what I was asking about.
All right.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think it was pretty clear. Like when we were first looking at cache, we were like, okay, well, what should we change, if anything? And the A site was definitely the focus. You could probably tell from the fact that we really didn't change anything on B in the current version that we didn't have like major problems with B. We thought it was working pretty well and kind of has an iconic identity. Whereas the A site, my big problem with the A site is you're entering from truck, right? Let's say you're a CT and you're rotating to the site. You have the truck angle, and I think that's a really good angle, and I think there's some really cool things about that. Like it's kind of a headshot angle, but it doesn't feel annoying to fight against because you can really clearly see their head over the truck, and the truck you can kind of jump on the truck and take a little bit of a second angle. So for me, that's fun. But then really from there, you're kind of screwed. Like going into the site as a CT, you'd have a wall on your left side, and you could hug the wall, but there's no cover there. There's really no second move that you can do. You kind of just have to hope that you get around the corner successfully without getting shot, which is kind of not
There's a lot of guessing when you enter the A site, right? You kind of just hope they're where you're.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be quad. So, all right, you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to have to probably kill quad at some point. Maybe he's not going to peek, but maybe they will. So it's there's quad. There's a possibility of default always. Fork. Hopefully you have somebody to help you with fork because that's going to be a challenge as well. And then a main, obviously. So there's all these tough angles coming into the site for the CTs, and the Ts really have some great angles that they can play. So that was my big frustration with the A site on cache, was just the limited options for the CTs coming back into the site. So I tried this idea with a curved wall, and I tried to sell Sal on it. I was like, listen, this has got some nice aspects to it. You can see more into default now. You can throw more nades into quad now. No, it's not the perfect Counter-Strike 90-degree angle that we all like because it's nice and clean and it's boxy. But, there's some really nice aspects to this. And he wasn't really sold on it. So I was like, okay, well, how can we meet on the middle on this? And he's like, well, what about a fence where, you can still throw nades in and you can still, have more ability to see into default from truck. But it won't be a curve, which Counter-Strike players aren't really huge about. And, it'll just have some additional advantages where you can see over it and throw nades over it. And I thought it was a really good solution. And, it's pretty much how we work, which is I'll try something a little bit crazier, try to get Sal to bite on it. And if he doesn't, hopefully we come to some kind of middle ground.
Yeah, I think you came to a pretty good middle ground. I do like the box on the wall. I think that's a good addition. I will say this is, again, now I'm going into personal preference here. I don't like that the thing, like the big, instead of red box in the middle of the site, I don't like all the weird little angles that come off that thing. You try to throw nades at it, sometimes they just bounce up into the sky, and I'm just like, fuck, damn it. But again, that's just a personal thing, because I think it looks better. It looks way better to have that, but I remember I tried to molly forklift from door off that thing, and the molly just went flying up into the sky when I bounced off of it, so that was a little frustrating, but I do think it looks a lot better, and the box added onto the wall is a really good addition. All right, so now I'm going to get into these are from the Reddit thread that was posted maybe when you guys did the show match. I think this was about a month ago. So I just picked 3 comments that I thought were pretty relevant talking points about the map. And
hold on, I want to ask him one question.
Ask him.
So, is this true that you guys added that thing at B on cache to catch cheaters? like the thing. You remember? You know what I'm talking about? Like
I've heard this theory, but I don't know what specific thing you're talking about.
Okay, so it's like it was like around that time when all the aim locks were coming out. There's that wall, like if say you're rotating into B as a CT to retake the site. There's that you know that if you're a T and you jump through the smoke and you go hide on top of that box at the right.
Okay, like the site box right
where heaven is.
Default.
No. Like if you were how do I explain this? Like if you're T and instead of going into the site you run into their spawn and you take a hard right past tree, kind of like on the right side there.
He's talking about if you go through main on B, like through C, like towards
main.
CT towards the tree, and you go to the right. Remember there was those boxes that go up where like the garage door was.
It's like right underneath the heaven, kind of like if you were
on
up the
CT
heaven
side,
ramp,
on CT
like
side,
on the CT,
not in the site.
Oh, okay. Are you talking about the ramp? By the ramp?
No,
yeah,
no.
like
it's in tree room.
On the other side of the wall. On the other side.
It's in tree room.
This is pathetic.
If you're going into
really bad, I'm having a hard time understanding it. Yeah.
If you run through from CT side, like you go into tree room, and instead of actually going into the B site, just hard left.
Okay,
and
all right. So in the corner of tree room, closest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so we have the person who made the map and two ex-professional players and a semi-professional player, and we can't come up with the fucking where the what.
No,
I
think I actually know where he's talking about now. So okay, so in tree room, you enter tree room, right, as a CT, and directly to your left.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, now, what was your question, Corey?
All right, so if you're walling, right, there's like the aimbots and the walls, apparently they know like what textures not to shoot through. And apparently if you go right to the right of that box, it glitches and it will just shoot through the wall and lock onto people. Okay. So there's a couple clips, and then I remember reading that people were saying like, oh, that was like something that they put into the map to purposely see if you could catch people. And I never knew if that was true or not. So
no, it's not true. I wish it was.
That's what you would say, wouldn't it?
No, I mean, there are like right now there's a pretty bad exploit that I'm hoping, Valve knows about it. So hopefully that means they'll fix it. And hopefully that means if you
it's the invisible box, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm hoping that anybody out there knows, like, if you do that now, there is a chance you could get backed, because I'm assuming that now that they know about it, they're going to work on it. So, I mean, we do have to keep in mind cheater stuff, and it happens a lot. Like, Cache right now is built out of custom assets. And unfortunately, the way Source currently works, any custom map is going to be kind of fucked with cheating, because you can go into a server, erase all the models, and then go back into a regular server, and now you have a VAC-proof, theoretically, cheat. So they need to fix that. Like, we do communicate with them about stuff that's going wrong with the maps in the game.
That's pretty crazy.
So do you end up having to deal with a lot of limitations of Source? Like you were talking earlier about player limitations, like players aren't accustomed to curved walls and angles and all this other stuff. But like how much of the map went through iteration specifically just to fix problems with the engine, or work around problems with the engine, that like otherwise you would have seen something different in the end result if the engine wasn't like that?
Dude, the engine is crazy. Like yesterday I tweeted out I was dealing with this bug where you would just be walking into Z and you drop like 100 frames. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I know I'm not that bad at my job. Like, I know there's something crazy going on here. And it took me so long to figure out what was going on. And I was contacting them. I was like, what is going on here, guys? And then I finally figured it out. Like, there was a collision mesh. So when you shoot a gun at a prop, it'll be like, okay, this is where the bullet stops. This is the impact of it. And it just had a bad collision mesh. And you'd walk into Z, and it would cause this insane frame drops. And I've never seen that before. And the engine is just endless with things that it feels like a sphere that's like expanding in all directions at once. And you have to try to like catch where it's expanding too quick. It's like a 360-degree problem,
Yeah, I was going to bring that up towards the end and actually ask you about that, about the FPS drops. There's one in Heaven too. I don't know if you know about that one.
It's the same
thing?
There's the gold trim in CT mid? Okay. This gold trim on the wall, and it had collisions because I didn't want people to shoot the gold trim and then have their bullets just go right through it. But I kind of looked at it and I was like, wait a minute, that's not even a big deal because it's like such a small prop, and so it extends from Z to Heaven.
Right. So
it's
the same thing.
is causing that whole problem. There's a 100 frame drop or something crazy.
Yeah, no, I was dropping down to 110 FPS, and I have like a 7700K 1080 Ti overclocked. Like I get 500 FPS streaming, and I was dropping down to like 120, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on with this?" So that's good that you know what it is and it's getting addressed. So let's get into these comments. I do wish Heaven. So this is from Bup Thes Nut.
Reasonable.
I do wish Heaven was a bit more tweaked. B may need a little more work on the original angles beyond just adding new ones. We'll see. So you kind of addressed that earlier about how you didn't feel the need to change B at all. You did add that boost in originally that you then took out. What was the thought process behind that?
I want to ask you guys whether you want to see changes to B, but let me just answer your question.
Okay, yeah.
So the boost is another like complicated one where I think it felt amazing as a CT. Like when you hopped up there as a CT and you're watching B main, it felt like it really added something to the level, and I liked it a lot. And if I was just restarting cache or I had complete 100% control of the layout and it wasn't a remake, I probably would have tried to integrate it in a way, but I think it still would have been a problem when the T's got up there for the retakes, because now instead of just looking straight ahead at the angle and that's the angle, now you're looking this way down. And so the CT entering the site is entering the site, and then immediately they have to turn and look up like this to try to shoot the guy who's looking down at them. And it was just an impossible angle for the CTs. Right. And we tried to clean it up. We tried to make it work, and it just didn't really work.
Because for those of you who may not know, and as far as CSGO is concerned, shooting up at somebody is significantly harder than shooting down at them because of the way the models work. I'm sure FMPONE can go into a little bit more detail, but actually you don't need to, fuck it. But shooting down at somebody's a lot easier. Shooting down at someone's a lot easier because you have way higher chance of getting a headshot just because of how the models are laid out. So having to fight up isn't ideal.
Yeah, I mean, Corey can, I'm sure, confirm this, but like there's nothing worse than entering a room, immediately you have to turn and then look up. I mean, that's got to be the least favorable angle.
And then get team killed by your teammate.
Yeah, I mean, those angles are honestly, a lot of CS players have more of an issue with them. Like anyone that's come from Quake or Unreal Tournament or something, I feel like they're naturally a little bit more used to it because there's a lot of twirling in those games. And then in Counter-Strike, you're also generally using lower sensitivities. So it's just like extra whammy. Like if you use 1.4 cents and you have to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So so as far as the B changes go,
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, go for it. It's fine.
What do you guys think about the B site?
Well, I'll go first real quick because I've been thinking about it quite a bit, knowing that you were coming on here. And again, this is a lot more of a personal preference thing than like that's what's tough about it, right? Because some people like things more simplistic, some people want things more complicated. It's impossible to please everybody. So from a creative point of view, you have to just do what you think is best, and you go with that. You take criticism wherever, but you pretty much just do what you think is best and hope that more people like it than don't like it, right? That's kind of the idea. So it's similar with making content, but obviously to a much larger scale. So for me, I didn't know what changes I would have like, and this plays into your point, whereas B kind of plays really well. And you're right, because when I was trying to think of changes, I knew in my head I wanted more changes, but when I was trying to think of good ones, at the end I was like, I don't know if that's better though. Like, I don't know, maybe, like I never was actually confident that saying this would be better than this. So I don't know if either of you guys can think of something that is like actually for sure better. But I knew I wanted changes. I still do, but I just don't know what. So
because like I feel like B side has always just been about utility. Like it's like, yeah, you can use one smoke, but you kind of have to save another smoke for the execute. So like it's kind of up to the T's to bait out both the smokes so that if they actually want to execute on B, they can't just drop a smoke and you can burn them to death. There's a lot of like little battles with nade usage at the B side, and if you change it too much, you're just going to change that. So I don't know if like I don't really know what you do without just ruining the dynamic of the site.
Yeah, when I talked to you in New York, you talked about how your philosophy for the B site was pretty much keep it the same because you changed a good amount at mid and at A also, especially like squeaky, just I don't know, the feel of things at the A side, I guess. And I would disagree with that. Because I think my one change would have been maybe expanding the actual bomb site itself, maybe like 12 pixels or something, like just a little bit more, because I feel like right now when you're playing on the site, it doesn't always feel like there's the most room to move if they double molly you on an exec. But other than that, I think it's pretty much good. It's really good. Like I can't like the defaulting part of it is good. Yeah.
The two changes I thought of that I thought would have improved the B site, they're small. Sorry, just go for it, Alex. Just go for it. Say yours.
One thing I like that you changed though is that when you push B main now as a CT, the T spawn, there's not that little sign angle from like a mile away where they can hold you. That is a really welcome change, because pushing B mains before would be like, okay, there's no one playing B main, but then there's this dude that's just camping spawn holding an op like or a Krieg nowadays and just sniping me from a mile away.
I used to just hide behind the fence, dude, and like just let them think that they got through. And
yeah.
And then I'd be like, yo, he pushed B. And then the other B rotator's going to leave, right? Because and then you just go kill that guy and go B. Or lose the round if you're my team. But
I was going to say, remember when that happened and we knew he was pushed and we didn't, and you told he was pushed and we knew he was stuck in Sunny.
We played a match versus Brazilians and I knew this guy pushed on an eco, by the way.
Yeah.
When we won the first half 12-3 and then we won pistol. This guy pushed into the sunroom, and I was like, he's 100% in sunroom. Everyone come back, gather. We're gonna just kill him and take the B site because no one's gonna be B if the dude's in sunroom. So I was like, all right, everyone come up. The guy gets 2 fucking kills because they didn't clear it. and then we lost the round and we lost in overtime.
Yeah. Classic. Anyway, so the two changes I was thinking, no, not at all. The two changes I was thinking is one, and I don't know how you go about changing this, but I was thinking that if you could guarantee that the best T side B spawn beats the best CT side B spawn, so that you actually like going into checkers without any nades, like just running, going heaven and dropping into checkers, doing that without any nades becomes a risk now. Like you can't so you almost have to use nades if you want to get checkers control from either side. Because right now the CTs can just drop in checkers, they just have checkers control, which is fine. That's how B plays right now. But I thought that would have been a cool change to make it actually more of a battle for checkers instead of.
You should have to though. I feel like the CTs at B already kind of need their.
Okay, so let me So here's another change that sort of plays into that. Is I thought that instead of how missiles are right now, I don't know what you call them, but you know how if you're running up to B site, the things that are just right on the close left as you're going up the ramp, first oranges, missiles, whatever you want to call it. If that was lower and had almost like a ramp up or like a little box so you could peek over it instead of it just being this big tall thing that people hide behind and hope nobody clears them, making that actually more of a playable spot, kind of like the box on the CT wall at A. Kind of like a similar thing, but like add that exact same box, like copy it and just put it on that spot in the B site instead. So there's 3 boxes to play with instead of just 2. Because right now, like Corey was saying, if you don't hold your smoke, if you're playing in B site as a CT and you don't have a smoke to smoke out their molly, you're just gonna die 100% of it. Like it's like impossible for you to multi. Yeah,
if they double molly,
you have a smoke, or you lose 100% of the time. So
I think that's an interesting idea. I think that's not like. A lot of ideas you'll hear, you'll be like, okay, that's dumb. I'm not going to tell them that's dumb, but that's dumb. But no, I don't think that's dumb. I think that's a good one. I think that's interesting.
It just makes it a little bit more playable on CT side B.
Maybe having one fair spot to like just fight with. So if people use 2 mollies, if there was at least one spot you could kind of fight from fairly, it would be nice, I guess, at the B.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be like OP because the entry flashes into B would still flash that guy if he was just posted.
And they pretty much know where you're going to be, too.
Right, and you're stuck there. You're still stuck there. Like, you can't get away once you're there.
It just gives you at least a chance.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I completely understand what you're saying. So when you enter B as a T, you have the pit, and right above the pit is like a crate. Or not a crate, it's like a tall stack of missiles.
I was thinking...
And you would say, like, cut that in half?
So you either cut it in half or like that box you added on A site at the truck wall, like something
that would
exactly
eat into
like
that would eat into your profile of the space that you have in the site.
Sure, I don't really. Oh, you mean like as far as
that's why I would make the site just a little bigger.
Yeah, that's
just a little bigger, just like.
Well, maybe not as big as the box at truck wall, but something that plays like that, where it's like, okay, I'm either hiding behind the box or I stand up and I'm peeking over the box, right? Something like that. whether it's just the missiles thing cut in half or whatever it is, where if you, okay, I can crouch behind this and just hide like normal, like how it is now, or I can stand up and now I'm fighting over top of it and it's like a headshot angle. So it's not like overpowered, but it's just an interesting thing to go in there. That
I think that's legit. I mean, I'm glad I asked now because I think that's a really interesting point.
Well, go ahead and use it, please. It would make me like the map even more. So go ahead.
So like here's how that would play out. Like, okay, like Cash is being played competitively, and we see that CTs still are not. Like we had demos from all the Face It games, and there was a lot of Face It games. There was like, I don't know how many games. There was a lot of games. So I think the numbers were like 48-52, I want to say, for favoring T's. So if we like had pros playing it and that number stayed, and we were like, all right, let's go for the 2% play, that's like when we like maybe would consider something like that.
Yeah. The problem is, like, no matter how much you try to make a map CT-sided, the game is just so T-sided, especially online, that you're almost never going to have a CT-sided map unless it is so CT-sided. Like, even Nuke right now is pretty even. Like, it is CT-sided, sure, for bad teams, but, like, if you have a really good T-side Nuke team, they're going to get 7 or 8 rounds. It's just the nature of how the game is right now, especially with the Krieg and the Peeker's advantage online specifically. Yeah. So this is just a comment. This is more of just a statement some guy made. I think there was people talking shit about the map in the thread, and this guy was a guy backing you up. So he says, what the fuck did people expect? Of course they're not going to completely rework the map. There's a reason it's so loved, and doing that would almost certainly be worse than what we have. People seem to underestimate that single changes can completely change the meta of a map. It looks great, and the meta will hopefully just be subtly shifted enough to make a change. So that, I don't know if that was what you were going for. As far as I know, in most of the interviews I heard, that was pretty much along the lines of what you were saying. It's like, this map plays great. It has a great layout. We don't want to just change everything and toss everything out. We want it to still be the same map. So this guy was sort of just sort of backing you up on that one.
Well, I think you guys have already talked about some of the really subtle stuff that is probably going to be lost on most players, but like the sign thing that you can't do anymore that was so kind of annoying, and there's a lot of stuff like that we really looked at and fixed. And, you know, like I said, it's going to fly under the radar for most players, but it's there, and I think it definitely makes the map quite a bit better than the old one, even if the layout is mostly the same.
And it's the small things for me that I really enjoy, like being able to jump on that lamp above Checkers. There's like telephone booths outside of the white truck that you can jump on now. Like just little things like that just make me happy. I'm like, oh, nice. We're not just like walking around on the floor the whole time. We're actually
railings and highway or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
just
listen,
little
I have
things.
an idea.
All right, send it.
All right, so you know those guns on the wall and like that panel of guns?
I did, yeah.
So what if you give them a 10% chance that if you eat on pistol round only, you can take a gun? But if you don't guess the 10% one, so it's a risk both ways, you know?
It's like a vending machine.
Yeah, that kills
it's like
you.
Gambling in game.
So like you can go for the auto sniper on pistol. You might die. I'm just
I've
saying.
always thought CSGO needs way more RNG. Just way.
Yeah, there's not enough.
Like crazy. Yeah.
In other games,
more
I can just
gambling,
crit
too.
someone. Like I can crit them for like 30,000 damage instead of 10.
All right, so this is the last comment. This is I'm sure you're tired of talking about this, but we're going to talk about it anyways, just because I do want to at least get your point of view as to what the decision-making process was behind this. But Pro Jums says, "Oh no, the forklift is still there." Sad face. What was your thought process with the forklift? And because I know obviously many people wanted it to be removed. They said it was too overpowered. You have changed the levels of the ground behind it, so you can't just crouch and hide behind it anymore. But so what made you decide to leave the forklift in?
Okay, so what do you guys think about the current forklift in the current new map?
Fine with me. It doesn't bother me. Yeah, I like it. It's not like it hasn't really changed much besides like what you used to be able to do on CT side though, for people who might not know for whatever reason. For example, even like an eco round, like you could have a CZ and you could just go to like the far right side of it, like where the big yellow thing was at the back, and you could crouch and look down, and no one would be able to see you. And then they could run all the way out to the forklift, be peeking truck from forklift, and you're still crouched there behind it, and you just stand up and get free kills. You used to do it all the time. It was sick. but obviously not the best game mechanic as far as.
I always thought it was harder versus good teams because you'd get chain flash so hard, like playing Fork versus like if you played like Liquid or something, you didn't just get a hide behind Fork and kill everyone. I promise. Like, but in Pugs and shit, like lower level, dude, it was kind of a.
And with how railings work in CS, every now and then there's just a tiny little pole that does like 5% damage. You can shoot somebody 20 times for 46 damage or something fucking ridiculous. So, I know you guys have changed that too. So it's a lot more spammable now. The levels on the floor are different. I think it's perfect. I think it's totally fine as far as the forklift goes.
I haven't actually played the new map like verse anymore, so it's to say how things like actually play.
I have, and the only thing that really bothered me about it was the FPS in Z in Heaven. So I'm glad you've got that figured out, and that's because that did bother me when I was trying to retake B, and I said, "Why do I have 90 FPS?" Like, why?
Oh, it bothered a lot of people. Yeah. Trust me, it didn't bother me because for some reason I didn't experience it, but Sal was like, "Yeah, the map is great, but why am I dropping so much in Z?" And I was like, "I don't know, dude. I'm working on it. I'm trying to figure it out." But so to talk about forklift, like you'd have to kind of understand where I was at in terms of my working with the tools and stuff, going back many, many years. Like the first thing we did was just a Valve prop. It was just a Valve forklift. And it's pretty funny if you go back and look at it because it looks terrible. It looks so bad. It looks almost worse than like a 1.6 asset would look. So I had no control or editing over that prop. So it was just whatever the prop is that Valve made, here you go. Here it is. And I think that's where forklift really made its wonderful reputation because just everything was wrong with it. You'd shoot the beams, the bullets would block, you'd throw nades at it, block that too. It had this weird like shape where just everything was wrong with it. So yeah, back then I'm fully on board with removing the forklift or just hating the forklift because it sucked pretty bad. Then I think there was another version of the forklift where I went through all these different changes and I finally I decompiled the nuke forklift and I made these texture changes that were kind of bad but it was better. It was definitely a lot better. But it still had some things that were pretty fucked up about it, but it was better than before. And then now I know exactly what I'm doing. So I was able to just make a new model, make the collision model. The beams don't block your bullets. They don't block your grenades. You hop up onto it. Last night or like 7 in the morning, I just made it so you can just hop on the forklift without crouch jumping. So it's really, really smooth movement wise. So just in terms of why forklift has this terrible reputation, it's because really back in the day, it did suck pretty bad and it's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, no, I thought the new one played perfectly, especially like as far as the forklift goes. I thought it was totally fine. I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. I also, just a quick side note, I like the roof you added at mid, like under the boost spot. I thought that was good. Did you move the jump spot farther back now? Like, is it a longer jump now? Like to jump to that thing?
So here's what happened with that. At ESL New York, it was the exact same.
Right.
And then people kind of were like mad. They're like, "Oh, you made it too easy."
Fair
so
enough.
I moved it back like 4 units, and I didn't really tell anyone. And it's harder now.
No,
like the first jump is harder.
I remember when they said it's the exact same distance, and I'm in a pug and I'm trying to do it, and I'm just like, there's no fucking way this is the same distance. Like, this is so much harder now. I'm glad now because I knew I was like, I can hit this jump every single time, and now I'm missing this. But to be fair, I do think it is good that you moved it back because it probably was too easy. Because I was doing like a sort of like I was just running through the map on my stream, and I was like, look, you could run out Z, smoke bottom mid, molly the boost, run, do the self boost, and jump up on the roof before your molly had even faded. So the CT could be up on boost before the T's could be, theoretically.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's probably too easy.
I think Stewie in the show match just held W and got a flank in A main. Yeah. And that was what kind of made me think like, okay, it can't be the exact same. It does need to be a little bit harder. And I can't really do it reliably me neither anymore.
Now, so. But so that was good. That was a good change. I like that you moved it back and made it harder too. That was good.
I will say it's funny when you read comments from people online. They're like, "It's the same jump," and I'm thinking to myself now, like, "No, it's not."
Yeah, no, it's not. But it's where people just like to stir shit, though, dude. Like people just like to be like, "Dude, it's harder now." They're like, "Nah, man, you're just bad." It's like, you know what I mean? Like they just like that, dude. They just like to stir shit. They just like to piss people off. All right, so that is all the questions we have. That is probably one of our longest Return Fire episodes yet. So thank you for coming on. Really do appreciate it. If you want to tell anybody about, go follow you on Twitter, your YouTube. If you're making any new maps, what do you want to talk about? Tell us. Pimp yourself out.
All right, follow me on Twitter, and I'll be on Mixer soon. They're giving me $1 million, so
Nice.
thank you.
Nice.
Congrats.
You need to send them our way. We can get this on Mixer for $1 million.
Oh, easy! I can make it happen.
All right, perfect. Sounds good. All right,
Nice
FMPONE,
to see
thank you
again
so much.
after New York.
I'll only stream on Mixer if Shroud and Ninja aren't streaming while I'm streaming. So.
I'll only stream if FMPONE is streaming, so we can cannibalize each other.
Perfect. All right, FM, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been Return Fire episode 8. We also, right after this, guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to stay live, and we're going to roll right into an episode of Peeker's Advantage. Richard Lewis is coming on. He's in the wings. He's waiting. So he'll be coming on. We're going to roll right into it. But as far as the VOD goes, I'm going to do a little sign off here. Return Fire episode 8. Thank you so much for watching. If you are a Patreon, or a patron, not a Patreon, as Darian likes to point out. If you are a patron on patreon.com/peakersadvantage, you can ask us questions for Return Fire. You also get episodes of the podcast one day early as they are recorded, although today is our first live episode, so that'll be fun. Thank you so much for everybody for watching. FMPONE, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, don't forget to check him out. We'll have all of his links in the description, and we will see you guys for the episode next week.
Thank you. Bye.